Hey guys, and welcome back to Polly Tea with D. Honestly, I'm not sure if I'm calling it the Polly Tea with D or just Polly Tea with D. I put it on my close friends, and the vote was everybody was saying Polly Tea, but then it sounds more natural to say the Polly Tea with D. Do you get me? But whatever, maybe we can just make it interchangeable. But anyway, we're back after the Christmas and New Year's and all that kind of stuff. I hope everyone had a good break. I feel like when you're an adult, Christmas doesn't hit as much because it's like the money's just leaving your bank account. That's it. You're just losing money every single day. But I will say this Christmas season was fun. I was out and about. Actual Christmas Day was a bit like meh. It's a bit of a boring day, I feel. But the Christmas season as a whole, like meeting up with your friends, going out, Christmas jumpers, all the rest, that was fun. So I will give this Christmas an 8 out of 10, actually. But I hope everybody else had a great Christmas and I had a great New Year's Eve. I will say I had a great New Year's Eve. We won't go into it, but yeah, she was fun. She was fun. She was living life. She was young. Oh, rhymed. Anyway, let's just get into the episode. Yeah, it's a bit of a doozy today. I mean, every week is a bit of a doozy. Like, there's just always some shit going on, honestly. But this week, and honestly, the past kind of like 2 weeks since they've been back for a week, but this kind of spilled over into the break, is the whole Grok AI X business and how horrible and disgusting and messy this whole entire thing is. So basically, X, formerly known as Twitter, I'm only now starting to call it X, honestly, but whatever. X has a feature called Grok, which is like an AI tool, and you could before it was really like you're asking it questions like I'd see it on a tweet and somebody like it would be like Grok, is this true? And then Grok would be like yes or no or give some historical background. Honestly, for an artificial intelligence, it's not very smart. Some of the times it would just get stuff wrong, it would make stuff up. It's just not great. But like AI in general is kind of like that. Anyway, now recently they've added this like undress feature to when they're generating images. So this AI feature that now generates images can undress the images and like put them in not completely but like put them in revealing outfits and bikinis and like lingerie and all these kind of things, mostly women, and it's also doing this to children. So yeah, it's like very disgusting. And at the beginning, Elon Musk was kind of like, "Oh my God, it's free speech." Like, if you talk about banning it, because the UK were very quick with this, and other countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, like a lot of countries are very strong on their stance on it. We're not as strong. Um, but they were straight away like, "This is horrible. Like, we will ban it if this is carries on. Like, this is crazy." Then you have Elon Musk like tweeting things like laughing emoji, and then saying if you're like banning free speech and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, we're talking about children, and we're talking about, you know, women's rights and like their right to privacy, and it's just insanely disgusting, honestly. But anyway, then they were like, okay, well, actually, Grok doesn't even do that stuff. Like, we really don't even do that, okay? And then they made a statement about it. Their safety account said, "We take action against illegal content on X, including child sexual abuse material, by removing it, permanently suspending accounts, and working with local governments and law enforcement as necessary." Right. I mean, not exactly true. Like, it's one of those things where, like, they say these things, but, like, are they actively doing this? Are they, like, where's the proof? I'm not seeing that. So then, because like, this kind of progressively got bigger and bigger and bigger as the days went on. So eventually, Elon Musk put it behind a paywall, the generating images. I mean, now it's just like, okay, I have to pay to undress people. Like, that's very bizarre now. Like, now it's a money thing. Like, now you're actually making money from this because people will want to pay to do this kind of stuff. So, like, now he's made it a profit kind of scheme. It's very disgusting. And it's just, I mean, it's just not enough. It's not even close to enough. It doesn't even begin to touch on the issue, okay? Okay, so now we're here. Like, what is our response? What are we doing as a country? What are our politicians doing? What is the plan here? Okay. Neve Smith, who's the Minister for Artificial Intelligence, has been very strong about this. She is actually probably the most vocal, I would say, and the most like strongly opposed to X even being allowed in Ireland as a whole, because a lot of like the opposition are like we should ban Grok. Some people are saying we should ban X. I know Social Democrats have left X. Um, but somebody brought up a good point that it's like people want to leave these platforms. People don't want to be on X, but like for like TFI, like if you want to see if your bus is on time or if it's later, if you want to ask a question, you have to do that on X because that's where it's done. Like you can get live updates there. So people who have to get like regular people, we have no other option but to be on these platforms because we have to get access to information. So it's like, okay, tell people to leave, and then what? You know, it's like such a basic. It's like, okay, need gives people an alternative. Like maybe the TFR should be on Blue Sky or something. I don't know. But anyway, she said, Neve said that she wants to set up a meeting with X, which she had on Friday, today actually. She had that meeting, and at the meeting, like, I've just seen like kind of quotes from it, but she's basically just like telling them, like, offering, like, we don't like this here. We would rather this wasn't a feature that you guys had. Like, we need some more, like, make things strict. I mean, I'm sure those executives were sitting in the room looking at her like, girl, we don't give a fuck. We don't like what is going into them and telling them off going to do? I think that was like, I mean, at least it's something, and at least we're actively attempting to like express our dismay, but we need more action than words, I would say. Anyway, and she even said, my own view is that if X are not going to abide by the laws here in Ireland, then yes, it should be banned. So yeah. Also, we have Commissioner Mann. They have also been vocal about this, and like they're having meetings with everyone trying to figure out like what is the plan, because the biggest thing at the moment is like, is there legislation against this? The government and the guards and everybody, they're saying the legislation is there, it's about enforcing it. But it's kind of, I feel like it's more complicated than that, because we have a law about like sharing images, like sexually based images, like, you know, revenge porn, all of those things, and obviously like child porn, anything related to children, we have laws against that. And people and AI pictures are classified under that. So it's like, even if you made it with AI, it still counts. The only problem is now we're wondering now is like, is it the generation of these images, like, is that illegal? Because what if you don't share it, but you generated that in your room by yourself and you now have these images of somebody else? Is that illegal? How can you track that? Is that something that you can track? That's where the problem lies, I think. Patrick O'Donovan, who's the arts minister, he's actually been brought up on this podcast quite a lot, so randomly. But anyway, he is the arts minister, so this would kind of, and like the media minister, so like this kind of stuff would fall under his remit. But Commissioner Mann are under him, so he has said this is their business. Actually, like, I'm not gonna get too involved at all. I'm gonna let them handle this. I'm gonna take a step back. And a week ago, he said that it's more down to the users and how they use it. And then he had to like change it, like come back and be like, no, that's not what I meant. Because he was basically insinuating like, we can't control what users do. If they want to make this like, that's, we can't control what users do. It's down to them. It shouldn't be down to the apps, which is obviously so insane to say. So he kind of had to backtrack. But yeah, he said that he's going to leave it to Commissioner Mann. He's not going to overstep, because he thinks, which is kind of insane. Like, you're the minister for the media. Like, the very least you should be doing is also setting up meetings with X or meetings with other European leaders about how you're going to tackle this as a group. But I mean, if you don't want to do that, you don't want to do that. Like, and then, so there's a lot of like Oireachtas committees. So the Oireachtas committee on the media, or on media, had a meeting on Wednesday, and this was the topic of conversation: AI, Grok, like kind of these images and how they're being, the legislation around it. So they had a detective there from the guards, and he basically said that they're investigating an AI tool. They didn't say which one, and then somebody said, "Is the AI tool that you're investigating Grok?" And they were like, "Yeah." And it also came out in this meeting that there's 200 images that Grok has created that are under investigation at the moment. So this is also the meeting where it came out that images that have been generated, or like, or that are being shared consensually, of women, men, anybody, AI pictures and real pictures are treated the exact same under the law. So yeah. So on February 4th, social media leaders are going to be going, or people from the social media platforms will be going in front of the Oireachtas Committee on Media. X have said they will not be there, and they have never gone before them. They've said no. Now I think there should be some sort of like, these Oireachtas Committee things are like, they're not mandatory obviously, because they would have had to come if it was. But I feel like there should be some sort of like, so maybe it should be mandatory for these, like, especially if they have headquarters here. I do think maybe it should be mandatory that they go before the Oireachtas committees and explain themselves for certain situations, especially like something like this. Like, X really should be at this meeting that's happening. So I mean, is that something that they would look into? Probably not. Like, it's just another hassle for them, I guess, for like ministers and TDs and all the rest. But it's just a thought. So, where are we now, honestly? So, Elon Musk has made another push to kind of like shut this down. And he's basically said, we will ban it. We will ban the undressing of. Why is this even a thing? I just can't even believe this. He has said that he's going to ban the feature that allows people to undress people, images of people in countries where that's illegal. So it's going to be geo blocked. Problem with geo blocking though is it doesn't really work. Like there's so many ways to get around geo-blocking. Sure, when I'm on my Hollybops and I want to watch Love Island, but it's not available there, I still watch it live. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to, you can get around geo-blocking. So, I just think it's such a weak measure, and I hope we're not allowing this to be like we're not sitting down and being okay, enough, that's fine. Because also another point that's been brought up is this is just the beginning. Like X is not going to be the only platform doing this. It's not the only app out there that can do this. It's not the like we need to make our laws strong enough that it's banned for anyone to even attempt to do something of this sort. Like any AI product being able to do something like this. Will that happen? I don't know because also like Neve Smith and all of these people like they've all said like the laws are there. Like actually we don't have to introduce anything else. Like you cannot do that. But the laws I don't think they are though because we still don't even know if it's illegal to generate these images even if it's in the privacy of your own home. Like we still don't know that. So, like, technology is going so fast and so rapidly that I feel like we think our existing laws out there are enough. And I think the government have been kind of lazy about it and thinking, oh, it's fine, it's not that big of a deal. And now we're in a situation like this where while we're busy figuring out, can we do this, can we do this, thousands and thousands and thousands of images are going out onto the internet of women or of people, children like in bikinis and in like it's just so disgusting. Primetime actually did a whole like video on it, and like loads of people have done videos on this. What's her name? Grania something. She's like a TV personality. She talked about how when she was running in the general election, an AI generated image, like a deepfake of her, like went viral because like somebody made it and shared it, and like it's still haunting her to this day. Like there's so many people out there that have been affected like by this and like the trauma that they have gone through. Like this is really just the end of the beginning if you really think about it. Like there is so much work that I think needs to be done. I don't know if our existing laws are enough because if they were enough, we wouldn't be in this situation where it's like we're calling X and we want to tell them that we don't appreciate this. If the law was strong enough, this never would have happened. It would have been shut down immediately. The minute it came to ministers' attention, they would have said, okay, it's actually illegal for you to be doing this, shut it down. You know? Instead, it's like even me home be like this is terrible. I think we're past it's terrible. Also, weirdly, the response from our like from the higher ups in government has been kind of muted and like so like all the opposition have actually used that word muted, where it's like the backbenchers and like people within the parties have all been like this is horrible, like we really should just ban Grok, we should ban X, whereas we have like our leaders like Simon Harris, Miho Martin kind of being like, yeah, this is bad, but like I'm not deleting the app. Like it's just so kind of it's just so there's too blasé I feel about it. Like they're not I'm never gonna give Keir Starmer his tens. Like I really don't I think he's a terrible human being. I think he's a terrible leader. I don't even know what he's doing most of the time, genuinely. But he at least has been strong in saying we will ban this app if you don't get rid of that. We will ban this app if you don't listen to our demands. Like he is strong in his stance against Grok AI and X, whereas our leaders are not like that at all. And it always comes back to the fact that obviously all of their headquarters are here. They're scared of losing business. Like our government will always choose these businesses over the citizens of this country. Trust and believe that. But yeah, that's the Grok AI of it all. I hope all of that made sense in a way. I just kept forgetting. I was even talking about it and I was like, what is the language that it's like I would use around this? Like it's such all of it is kind of new, I feel. Um well not actually that new. All the deep fakes and stuff like that have been going on for ages. I remember like Taylor Swift, they were making loads of deep fakes about her, Megan the Stallion. So it's like and they make it about celebrities and like regular people have deep fakes made about them. Like this has been I think for a while. I feel like back then they weren't as good, and you could be like, okay, this is clearly fake. Whereas now we're getting to the territory where it's like you actually could not tell the difference. I saw a New York Times video about it, and it was scary. This woman had an outfit on, and she was like, okay, guess which one of these is the AI and which is the original, and none of the three were the original. I'm here looking at it being like, I think it might be number two. It wasn't even. It wasn't even. It's actually really, really terrifying. Because before, the fingers would always be weird. Someone would have a sixth finger for some reason. But now, it's scary, scary. So, moving on to bills. What bills are happening at the moment? You know that song by Destiny Child's Bills? Dun, 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 dun. I wonder how much that would cost for me to have that song for my podcast. I think I can afford it. But whatever. You guys will just have to settle for me singing Bills by Destiny's Child. And no, I'm joking. Okay. So what bills have we got coming up? So basically the government announced their program for the spring season, and that has 30 bills. 30. I don't think that's, yeah, 30. Um but like we're not going to go through all 30 bills, of course. But let's go through the big three, because we the big three. Don't need a big speech. We made the biggest impact. Check the spreadsheet. Okay? All of these three bills are either weak, downright offensive, or just terrible. But let's get into it anyway. Let's start with the Defense Amendment Bill of 2025, and this is basically the one that's going to get rid of the triple lock. So if you don't remember what the triple lock is, or if you don't know what the triple lock is, basically it was something that was added to the defense bill a while ago, I think like 2002 for the Nice Treaty, to um protect our neutrality. So basically, if we're sending 12 personnel somewhere like Lebanon, or to a war, just like because we're peacekeepers, if we're sending them somewhere for less than 12, you only need government approval. But if we're sending more than 12 personnel abroad, we need government approval, cabinet approval. You need approval from Dáil Éireann. So that would obviously always pass because the government are in a majority, but it would at least mean that there's a debate, a public one, and then there like the opposition can ask questions. They can, you know, get like why are you sending these people there, you know? And then the last one, and then there would be a vote. And then the last one is the UN Security Council or the UN General Assembly, but like we've never really gone through that route. It's always been the UN Security Council, so we need approval from them. So the Defense Amendment Bill is calling to get rid of the UN approval. But like why do we have the triple lock? Main one being to protect our neutrality. So that it also means like if we're going somewhere, like I think we went to Chad. Like we've been around the block. But if we're going somewhere, we're going where the international community thinks that we should be. We're not going somewhere because we think we need to be there. We're so important that it's like they need us. We have a reason to be there, and everybody also agrees that we should be there. But the problem that the government have with this is the Security Council and their vetoes. So the permanent members have vetoes. That would be Russia, China, US, UK, and France. So they can veto a mission. And okay, sure, the government wants to get rid of that. Surely they would, like, they should come up with an alternative sort of kind of like a fail-safe or something so that like it's not just government approval. I don't understand why they're going from UN approval to I think we'll just decide. Thank you. I just think there should have been another option then, another something else in place. But anyway, and the problem the opposition have with getting rid of the triple lock is that it could be kind of like a slippery slope where now we don't know what the government's intentions are when they're sending people places. Like, are we now aligning with EU missions? Are we now starting to align ourselves with NATO missions? Which, I mean, trust me, if we start aligning ourselves with NATO missions, we are toast. We're done. Neutrality, you can actually just, if it was a piece of paper, it'd be ripped. Do you know what I mean? I mean, the triple lock is a piece of paper that is being ripped, and that is also neutrality. So people are a little bit worried about this, rightfully so. And I honestly, for something like this, surely we'd have a referendum. Hey, that's just me. But then also everybody's like, well, we can't have a referendum about everything. Like if we vote in a government, we have to trust them to make decisions. And I'm like, yeah, some decisions, right? But a decision like this is so massive that I just can't really see why they would do it without a referendum. Maybe because they know that they would lose. The government don't really have a great track record recently when it comes to referendums. So maybe they're just like, fuck it, we can't have another loss under our belt. Like that's just not good enough, you know? I don't know, but that's bill number one, and that's where we are. So the next bill is the Occupied Territories Bill. Um, I mean, like we were promised this so long ago. I can't. I The idea that maybe this will be published in this spring session, I don't think it's true. It's also a very, very weak version of the original. This is to prohibit the import of goods from occupied Palestinian territories. The original version that was published 8 years ago, which the government refused to acknowledge. Like somebody in the doll the other day was like, we've had this bill for 8 years and you haven't put it through yet. Like this is insane. And I don't know who it was. Someone I want to say it was Michal Martin, but he was like, well, actually, hasn't been 8 years. Don't say that now. Hasn't been 8 years. It's been two, and that's because they're obviously talking about their version, which is a weak version of Senator Frances Black's version, which she put forward 8 years ago. So it's like, why are we rewriting history before our very own eyes? Like, it's very bizarre that they would even say something like that, but whatever. I mean, it's not the same bill anymore, I guess, because it's actually just like at this point, it's nothing. Like it's really nothing. But still, they should publish it anyway. They should make it a law. Like they should pass it anyway because like now it's taking too long. Like we're dragging it now, and obviously they were doing this because they were waiting for a ceasefire. I've said this before. They were waiting for a ceasefire, and they thought the ceasefire was going to come and it was going to save them, and then they wouldn't have to publish this because they wouldn't have pissed off the U.S. And then they can say, "Look, guys, we had the bill prepped. Like we were going to do it, but the ceasefire's here." Problem is, this ceasefire is not a ceasefire at all. People are dying every day at the hands of Israel. Still, the genocide is still ongoing. So it just doesn't actually make sense for them to have not published it yet. Also, they keep saying that services are being left out because of legal reasons. They won't even say actually what the legal reasons are. Like, I don't know what the legal reasons are. Sure they have actually, and I just haven't seen it. But they keep saying for legal reasons, we won't include it. But I remember like months ago now. It's been so long. I think it was like December or something. No, December last year even I'd say. But ages ago, a bunch of lawyers came out and said actually there's no problem with you guys including services. I actually think it would be better if you did. Like even the ICJ, when they ruled that this is probably a genocide, they were like, we think people should start boycotting Israel. Like they should and that they were including services. So actually, we would be doing what the ICJ wants us to do if we included services in the actual bill. But the government have no balls. They're weak as fuck. They're just like they just have no balls. So they're not gonna include that. So what can you do at this point? Like, I mean, no, don't be deflated, D. Don't be deflated. No one be deflated. You can still protest. You can, like, I don't know. Sometimes I just get so depressed when I think about this stuff because I'm just like, the government don't give a fuck, like, what we say. They don't care what we do. They don't listen to anything we do, say, or do. They don't care. They just don't care. But don't let that deter you. You still have to keep fighting because if you give up, then they win, and we can't let them win. So, also, the government pledged 42 million in aid to Palestine, but I'm like, the aid's not getting in. You're pledging 42 million to the air. It's not getting in, like. So, sure, look, sure, listen. We'll see if that bill actually passes because I swear we've been saying this for ages. Another thing about this bill, another reason that they said maybe they couldn't include services, they've, I don't know why they even brought this up, but anyway, there's anti-boycott legislation in the US and some states. So if you say that you're going to boycott, um, if you say you're going to boycott Israel, then sanctions would be put on you or your businesses or whatever. So they were saying, well, we have businesses here in Ireland that also operate in the US, so it'd be kind of hard to implement something like that because then they would have sanctions put against them, blah 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 blah. So they tell us all this, and then all of a sudden, but that's not why we're doing it. That's what Helen McEntee said. She said that's not why we're doing it. I'm just telling you that that's a thing that's happening, but that's not why we're not including services. So I don't know, girl. I don't know. So now we're at the International Protection Bill. Like, just like it's such an awful, awful bill that I really don't want to talk about it. But we have to because we can't let the government get away with it. I mean, they will, but like we can still make noise about it. So this one, this is like they keep saying this line everywhere I go. They keep saying this line: the most significant reform of Irish asylum laws in the history of the state. Mind you, they're doing this to align with the EU Migration and Asylum Pact and also to cater to the far right. But they're acting like we did this all on our lonesome. These are all things, and like these are all catering to that pact. But anyway, And the EU and Migration and Asylum Pact is basically an agreement among EU member states on the rules for asylum and migration to the EU. So these changes, the big changes would be one, the reunification law. So once the government decides that they give you refugee status, before it was you could immediately apply for reunification, so you could bring over your kids or your partner. Now, once you get refugee status, you have to wait 3 years and prove that you like financial stability. What confuses me about this, though, is okay, you have decided that this person, where they are coming from, is so dangerous that that person had to flee and is seeking asylum here. You have read through all their documents, you've read through all their proof, and you have decided, yeah, you can't go back. But it's okay if your children are there for another 3 years. That's okay. It's okay if your partner's there. It's okay that you are now alone in a country you've never been to. You don't know what the hell's going on. You're by yourself. It's okay. You fled something. You have the trauma you're going through. Unbelievable. No supports, by the way. Psychological supports, is that a thing? That people like refugees get? No, it's not. Okay? So you're obviously suffering as it is, and now you're alone, and you have to live with the fact that your children or your partner is in a situation that you had to flee from. Okay. Okay, I mean, I don't understand. Like, Jim O'Callaghan keeps saying it's in the public interest because it's like putting, like, having people over here is like a strain on on our services. But like, all you're doing is punishing the people that you have deemed so vulnerable. Like the one of the most vulnerable people, some of the most vulnerable people in the state. You've deemed them that, and you're punishing them for that fact. Oh, okay. Like, anyway, another thing that is part of this is a worry that people have is that they're putting speed over fairness, because right now it kind of takes like years to get your asylum seeker like processed out. So like to get your refugee status, it takes years to find out if you're allowed to stay here or you have to go back. Right now they're saying they want to get that all done within 6 months. So 3 months to find out if you have to stay, or if you've like gotten refugee status, or if you have to leave. And then if you don't get your refugee status, you can appeal that, and you will get that appeal within 3 months. 3 months is insane. Like, I'm not saying I want these people to be stuck here for years and years and years while we're trying to figure it out. Like, no, that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. But I think we're gonna be. I'm worried that people who are overworked and really stressed are gonna be flying through these things, being like, okay, no, 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 goodbye. You know? Also, that'll probably lead to a lot more lawsuits because they're not going through these claims properly. But I wanted to research like what are people saying about this. I'm gonna read you what's on the NASC website, which NASC is a refugee and asylum seeker kind of like charity. They kind of support them, give them advice, give them supports. So I'm gonna read what's on their website about the kind of issues that they have with this, and this also kind of applies to the EU and Migration Pact because again we're doing this to align with that pact. But some of the issues that they have with the bill. One is the detention of children. The Pact's provisions may lead to the detention of children, including those who are unaccompanied or seeking asylum with their families. These measures contravene international conventions safeguarding children's rights. Two, no legal representation. The current proposal lacks clarity on whether applicants will retain their basic right to legal representation. Insanity. Okay. Three, accelerated process. The Irish government is proposing a 12-week time frame for processing certain asylum applications under the new pact. For example, applicants from a country designated as safe would have their cases processed within 12 weeks, encompassing both the initial decision and any appeals. This may result in unfair rejection of asylum claims from individuals fleeing persecution in these countries. This is what is going to lead to a ton of lawsuits, by the way, that we're going to have to end up paying for, when it's like you actually could have just paid to have these people here safely. But sure, keep it fast, keep it sweet. Also, the new accelerated procedure might also fail to account for vulnerabilities such as unaccompanied children, victims of torture or sexual violence, victims of trafficking, amongst other cases. Those applicants often need more time to gather evidence, find appropriate supports, and disclose trauma. Like, genuinely think about the fact that if you came from a war-torn country, you've just arrived. You need to gather evidence, you need to gather proof of whatever you've been through. And they're telling you, get it done quickly, Get it done quickly because, like, 3 months is the time that you get your decision. So you have to, it's not even 3 months that you have to give your proof. That would have to be done with way before that, before they give your decision. So it's like you've just arrived. And also, you might not even have legal representation. So imagine you don't even speak English. How are you doing any of this? Oh my God. Anyway, restrictions on movement. Proposals to limit. Oh my God, this is insanity. Restrictions on movement. Proposals to limit the movement of asylum seekers during the application process could infringe upon the rights and freedoms of individuals seeking protection. Restrictions of movement. Is that what we're on? All right, sure. Like, and this is not far right. This is not extreme. This is normal. This is what, like, every time I read about stuff online about this, everybody's so chill about it. And I'm like, this is kind of insane. Anyway, 5. Removal of in-person appeals. Under the proposed changes, asylum seekers would no longer have an automatic right to an in-person oral hearing when appealing a refusal or international protection. This is a significant shift from the current system, where applicants can present their case in person before the International Protections Appeal Tribunal. The aim is to expedite the appeals process. However, this change could undermine procedural fairness and access to justice for asylum seekers. It's crucial to note that the success rate for asylum appeals in Ireland has been approximately 30% in recent years. They say this is for public interest, but I'm the public and this does not pique my interest. I don't like this. Not one bit, not one bit, not one bit. Now, let's talk about Paschal Donohoe and the whole World Bank kind of controversy. So, we have our general election 2024, right? Paschal Donohoe becomes a TD, as do all the other TDs who are in there. Then they start handing out the ministerial roles, and in January of 2025, he becomes Minister for Finance. And then in April, he announces that we're paying the World Bank 141.1 million euro. Okay, and that's a 33% increase from the last time we donated to the World Bank. Okay, and then in November, he leaves for a job at the World Bank. Also during this time, he was a governor of the World Bank, but that's kind of different because there's like a board and each member is appointed from a member country so that you have someone on the board. So they're all governors and they're all governors. But it's usually the Minister of Finance. So everybody keeps saying like he also worked for the World Bank already before, and it's like this is a promotion because yeah, but it's like every minister for finance or somebody from that kind of department usually does work for the World Bank or like has a role there. So not that abnormal, okay? You think. You think, okay? So that's whatever. The problem now though is, and there's two different narratives going around. The opposition are saying that the World Bank asked for 131.1, and this is to go to the International Development Program. So this is to like for giving aid to third world countries. I do that in comic because that's that's what they like to say. The global south. I don't know, all these kind of like bullshit imperial terms. But anyway, they say it's to give aid, right? So the problem is the opposition say that the World Bank asked for 131.4 million euro and that we gave them 141.1 million. Why did we give them an extra 10 million? Why did we give them an extra 10 million? Now everybody's coming to the conclusion that he paid for his next job. Like he paid for his promotion. It's like, what do you mean you give an extra 10 mil and the next thing you know, you're quitting your job as a TD to go work for them? It's giving corruption. And also, the 131.1 million or 31.4. Oh my god, this is so many numbers. I actually hate working with numbers. This is too many numbers. Anyway, the 131.1. What? Bro, I'm having a stroke. 131.4 million. Okay? That was the number approved by his own department officials, okay? So that's the number that the World Bank asked for and the number that it was approved. Okay, so how did we get to 141.4? Everybody's saying corruption, right? But obviously his people, his gang are saying no, 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 like that's not true at all. So the Taoiseach has come up with a different explanation. He says that the Department of Finance said that the 141.1 million was the low option. So here were the options that they were given. You could give no funding, 121 million, 144 million, or 158 million. So the Department of Finance officials, the people who work for the Department of Finance, they said, okay, a high option if we want to give to the World Bank would be 150 million, and then the low option would be 141 million. So they said Paschal, being the fiscally responsible guy that he is, went with the low option. He also, the Taoiseach also said ministers don't actually play a role in how much we choose. Like, it's the department officials, so that there's kind of like a bit of separation of church and state. Or I don't know if I'm using that phrase right. I definitely haven't. But like a bit of a separation, right? For all, like, so we also don't even know if that's true. Like, for all we know, he could have paid for his next job. And do you know what annoys me? I read an RT this. Let me read you this thing that I saw. They said separate government sources have indicated that while the negotiations were taking place, Mr. Donohoe would not have been aware of any future role and were critical of opposition parties' views of what took place. We weren't there though. Like, I don't know the date that this role went up on the World Bank website. I don't know the date he applied. Did he apply? Was it a call? Was it like, I don't know the process. You're just saying shit. And what's annoying about this is the Oireachtas Committee on Finance wanted to call Paschal. They said, let's just call Taylor up. Let's just call Taylor up. Let's call Paschal up and have him just answer these questions so that we're all not guessing, playing a guessing game. No, there was a vote. Let's just vote. Let's just vote. The Oireachtas Committee on Finance had a vote on saying, should we call Paschal up? Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, of course, voted no. So now Paschal doesn't actually have to show up, and he probably won't. He's living it up with his big bucks, like all his salary. He's chilling. He's like, honestly, I don't even remember being a TD. I don't recall. I plead the fifth, if you will. Um, and it's just so annoying because, like, Mr. What's his name? Keane O'Callaghan was like, these are the kind of questions that he would have asked. He said, when did Paschal Donohoe know that he was going to be taking up that very senior role in the World Bank? Was he aware that there was a possibility, that was a possibility when he was making that decision last April? Did he make his colleagues aware that there was a potential conflict of interest here? These are the type of questions we would have asked him had he come before the Oireachtas Committee on Finance. And he didn't. So, damn. Guess we'll never know. Guess we'll never know. No, I don't think this is the end of it. I'm sure, like, I don't think the opposition will drop this, honestly. So we'll see where it goes from now. But, like, it's just kind of hard to believe a single word the government says when there's one, no proof of any of this. And then the one person who could answer these questions, they voted not to call him up. It's giving kind of sly, huh? But anyway. So, okay, I know this is going really long, but we are on our last topic, and this is kind of a good one. I mean, it's not good, like something good happened, but it is kind of like tea, it's interesting. But it's just also classic corruption, classic politics, you know? Anyway, so last year in June, it came out that 13,000 people were affected by pension deduction, so public servants. So a lot of people were overpaid. Some people were underpaid, but most people were overpaid, right? Including ministers. So we don't have the names for a lot of people. We for any people. I think we have two names. I'll get to that as well. So 32 current ministers were affected. 24 have already paid it back or entered a repayment scheme, a plan, so they'll repay it over time. 10 serving ministers that we don't know the names of. Well, we know two. 10 serving ministers have not entered a repayment plan yet, they say. And then 17 former ministers also haven't entered a repayment plan. And the amount goes from like a couple hundred to some people owing up to 30,000 euro. How you don't pay that back is crazy because like you're already on such a high salary. Like government ministers earn like over 200k. Like, yeah, you're just greedy now. And most of these people are landlords too. Like, you're just actually so greedy. Like, I remember, throwback, I'm such a good person. I used to work in this restaurant. It was a family business. I loved it actually. I might go back now because I kind of miss it. Anyway, I worked in this restaurant. One week they accidentally sent me my paycheck twice. And I just said, "Oh, I just sent called and I said, "Oh, I think you sent it to me twice." They said, "D, you're actually such a good person." I'm not even joking. They actually said that to me. They said, "You actually are a really good person because you could have gotten away with that." And I said, "Nah, I couldn't have that on my conscience." Do you know what I mean? So they just said, you know what, keep it and then we'll deduct it from your next paycheck. I was honestly like, damn, I kind of wish I could give it back and then you can just give it back to me later, but that's kind of stupid. So they just deducted it from my next paycheck, but that was like 120 euro or something. You owe 30k, 30k, and you haven't paid that back, or at least attempted to pay that back. I think some of these people were just hoping we would forget, or that no one would bring it up, and that they'd just be like, okay, I'm just 30k richer, or 20k, like, because it goes from a couple hundred to a 30k, so it could be like you owe 500 euro or something like that. Messy. Do you want to know who hasn't that we know for sure? James Brown, the housing minister, and Patrick O'Donovan, the arts minister. He is big on this podcast. Patrick O'Donovan. I don't think I've ever mentioned any minister as much as I've mentioned this guy. Jesus Christ. Anyway, they haven't entered a repayment plan. And the problem and what the excuse is that people are just getting clarification. You've been getting clarification for 7 months now, by the way. You actually haven't asked to get clarification. You're only getting it now because everyone's saying, what's going on with that? So they're getting clarification about how it's going to work, how much they actually owe because they don't want to be paying more. You would never be in a situation where you're paying more than you owe. Like, let's be for real now. You just wanted to keep that money low key. But anyway, they said we're just getting clarification. So we'll see, hopefully by next week, that it's clarified because this is kind of crazy. So, yeah. But that's it for this week, guys, actually. Wow. What a week. Oh, let me fix this. Anyway, yeah, what a week, guys. Really came in swinging. I'll keep you guys updated with the Grok AI because something tells me we're this is far, far from over, and I'll just keep you updated on anything else that in this week's episode that spins the block. But we'll see you guys next week, next Friday, and yeah, I hope you guys have a great week or weekend. And oh, I forgot to say that I've changed the day. It's coming out on Saturdays because I used to do Fridays, but it's like it doesn't make sense on a Friday like evening for it to come out because I check the stats, if you will. I'm a statistics kind of girl. Um, and most people listen over the weekend or like the next week. So it's like I don't need to be killing myself trying to get it out on a Friday if no one's even listening on that day anyway. So Saturday at noon. But anyway, thanks guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.